Disney ruining Star Wars. This is probably the most highly debated topic in the Star Wars community. First off, I am not one of those people that think Star Wars is dead in any way, shape, or form. It's very much alive. There are thousands, if not millions, of people that watch it. I myself have a community of just 500 people, and that's just me, a tiny little channel. Then there are other channels like Daily Tactics and Star Wars Theory with 100,000 to a million subscribers, which doesn't sound dead to me in any way, shape, or form. But the essential answer to all these questions are that time in 2011, when Bob Iger and George Lucas were sitting at that desk with the computer behind them, and Bob Iger and George Lucas signed the papers for $4 billion to sell Star Wars, which, by the way, was a great investment on Disney's part. They've made their money back on that. Back then, there were a few main concerns. One, they don't want Disney to make Star Wars like Princess Leia, their new princess, and they don't want it to be integrated into their own parks as a part of like everything in that sort of way. They were worried that it was just going to be soulless stuff with no heart put into it, and them making seriously bad movies with Carrie Fisher as a fat person. And that was a legitimate concern. Like, people were worried that all the characters were going to be old. Like, you look back on it and people were actually talking about it, which I find kind of crazy. Which, by the way, good on her before she passed away to lose all that weight and do all that stuff for herself. But yes, so I think we're going to skip the fact that they had to cancel the Clone Wars, and after all that, I think we're going to skip straight to 2015, when we first saw The Force Awakens. Now, there are two things about The Force Awakens that were good and bad. The first thing is that it brought back Star Wars. This was the highest grossing film for a good while until Avengers Infinity War beat it, but it was the highest grossing film, and it brought back a younger generation of fans, and it pleased most people. Here's the other thing, though. I didn't really like it. I thought it was just a poor recreation, and it had lame characters, and it was a really bad setup for the rest of the trilogy. And that is why I don't completely blame Rian Johnson for The Last Jedi, because he was set up with some really weak sauce characters. Really weak sauce. Like, Rey, Finn, Poe. Poe was cool. He could have been more. But he was just set up with some really poor characters, and I thought that the graphics were stunning and everything about that aspect. Music was great. It was just, that wasn't like that. And a lot of people liked it at first. I thought it was pretty good at first. Then again, I was like 9, so that wasn't really help. But yeah. And the year after that, we had Rebels before episode 5, and I look back on that and realized that people actually thought Ezra was going to be Kylo Ren, which I find insane. Like, people thought Ezra was going to be Kylo Ren. If you look back to some theories, there was a trailer where Ezra was holding a crossguard lightsaber, and everyone's like, look, it's the new Kylo Ren. And I just look back on all these old theories and I'm like, wow. And I thought that was pretty cool, but enough about that. But then we got after episode not 5, I want to say 5, but after Force Awakens, then there was a bit of a year. We had Rebels, we had some stuff going on back around then. That was when the Clone Wars, I feel like, started picking up for me, and I started watching the Clone Wars I started watching Clone Wars, like, pretty much right after that, like, that February. Clone Wars, I loved it. My sister went to horseback riding, and I would sit in the car and watch Clone Wars, and it was awesome. I loved the Clone Wars, but this isn't really about my opinion. And then we move on to Rogue One, and I loved Rogue One. I thought it was an amazing film. Characters were somewhat stale, but that Vader scene, if you were literally to make a 1-minute movie, like, I paid $20, I'd walk in, I see a Vader scene, magnificent, throwing roses at the theater. It was the coolest thing ever. But that movie I really liked. It was taking place. It's just a really nice explanation. I really loved it. I mean, I'm kind of tired of the Death Star at this point, but really loved that movie. And then I'll just kind of breeze over until The Last Jedi. Then we had some more stuff that year, blah, blah, blah. Had a few shows, Resistance, I think, no, it wasn't announced yet. We had a lot of stuff. Star Wars was pretty much booming. Everyone loved it. Toy sales were a bit down because they overprojected. And, of course, Lego wasn't. And then came 2017. December and The Last Jedi. And let me just say that 11-year-old me at that point walked out of the theater. I think it was 11. 12-year-old me. Something like that. Maybe it was 10 when I saw Force Awakens. But 11, I'll just say 12-year-old me loved that. That was, I really liked it. I personally, the only thing I wanted from that movie was Yoda. And Yoda was there, and I just loved it. I thought it was great. And walking out of theater, I thought it was, one of the coolest thing ever. And I was just so hyped about Star Wars, flashing on the apparatus. And I was just like, look, I'm on Cal Ship. And it was just, I personally liked it. I know it probably wasn't the reaction for a lot of people walking out of the theater. But yeah, I liked it. And as the years went on, I started to kind of, see everyone hated it. And I kind of kept my opinion and to myself. And basically, I'm not saying I love The Last Jedi. It has its flaws, which I'm not going to go into here. I can make a whole video about that. Canto Bight, they could have gotten rid of that. They could have just made Finn go on the escapade with Poe. And I don't mind Rose as a character. I think she's a fine character. I think the end scene where she sacrificed herself was kind of meh. But really gave an interesting arc. And I kind of wish they killed off Finn, because that would have been a really interesting twist. Han Solo kind of died in episode 5, at least we thought. So I don't think Finn would have survived. But I think that would have been an interesting thing. Which Han Solo was actually supposed to die in episode 5. But anyway, moving on. We had 2018 and Solo happened. And after all that backlash from Last Jedi, and the fact that Solo just looked like an uninteresting film. One of my friends didn't see it because it just looked boring. And to be honest, I don't blame him. It didn't feel like Star Wars. It felt like sort of Star Wars. It just, when you don't have Harrison Ford as Han Solo, it's just not the same. It takes a lot. And the prop crew is great. Everything is great. It's just I find myself struggling to rewatch it, to be honest. It's exciting when you first watch it, but it's just it can be boring. It can't be rewatchable. It's not that exciting. That's the issue I'm having with Solo. And I didn't love Solo. It's probably one of my lesser favorite Star Wars movies. My least is Attack of the Clones, and then that, probably. And yeah, I just didn't love Solo. And the fan base responded with box office. They didn't even break their they didn't even make money. They started losing money opening weekend, because it was I think it was the highest budget movie ever. I think Rise of Skywalker is now, but highest budget movie for Star Wars. And definitely showed, there were a lot of physical props, and Chewie was great and everything. It was just, didn't feel like Star Wars. And also it felt really forced. Everything in it was super forced. And it didn't do well. And I think that was a sign of Disney. And they realized that Bob Iger, who CEO of Disney, came out in a statement saying, yeah, they think they went too far. And then here we are with The Rise of Skywalker, and a lot of people aren't hyped for it. I'm personally hyped. I thought the trailer was epic. And then again, I think the best trailer ever was the Last Jedi one. I don't know why. I just looked back on it, and it was so cool. With the porgs. I love porgs. Where are they, by the way? I need porgs. If there are no porgs in episode 9, I am going to cry. But yeah, and here we are waiting for Rise of Skywalker, and I think what they're doing right now is great. So now we'll get into the meat and potatoes. Is Disney killing Star Wars? And the short answer, no. And here's why. I think that if Star Wars continued, the Clone Wars would have only had about 2 more seasons, and then George Lucas would have released that Star Wars Detours, which would have been weird. And personally, movies take a long time to make, and they didn't realize that people like the prequels, because they always hear, those prequels were horrible, horrible. And then we go now, and they see everyone loves the prequels for whatever reason, which now they kind of understand, I guess. And they're like, okay, guys, obviously this isn't what they want. They need to finish off Rise of Skywalker, which it did pretty well. I mean, Last Jedi Force Awakens, they all did pretty well in box office. Like, Last Jedi did really well. It did good in theaters. It was not that it was a bad movie, it just did well in theaters, whether you think it's bad or not. And obviously that means more money. Emoji Movie did well in theaters. Even though it has a 0 review, here we are. And I think what the mouse is coming up with for recently is pretty cool. We have The Mandalorian, which is the first live-action Star Wars show, and my gosh, it looks epic. We have the Return of the Clone Wars, which, even though they were outraged and they technically canceled it, they didn't have to bring it back, but they did. And personally, the biggest one for me is this one, the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. And with this one, is really interesting because the fans have wanted this. Disney's realized their love and the fans' appreciation of Obi-Wan, and I don't think they've realized it. They make money. How do you think they make money? They don't purposely make crappy movies and shows because they think they just do it to hate you, or they just do it because they want money. Because obviously, all the hardcore fans will want to go see it because, oh my gosh, look, it's Obi-Wan. Money. And then they're going to throw their money at it. And I genuinely think Disney has, like, that mindset, which, yeah, they're money-minded, but so was George Lucas. He wanted to make everything geared towards toys, Ewoks, Han Solo, lightsabers, etc. That was a big debate if George Lucas was a toy salesman or a, movie maker. And really, I think it just takes a while to make movies. It takes, like, Ewan McGregor's had to keep this a secret for 4 years, this series. And it just takes a long time. And if we just kind of are patient, we're going to see some stuff. I have a feeling. I can't really, like, say anything, but I have a feeling that we're going to be getting more Clone Wars stuff. I don't know how. We're getting The Mandalorian, which we're seeing already is incorporating battle droids. In Rise of Skywalker, we see a battle droid behind 3PO, which could mean that we're seeing the battle droid army. And the prequel, and they've been trying to pretty much forget the prequels. And in all fairness, they didn't know that we liked the prequels, I think. They probably should have done some more, like, crowd assessing. But as the new generation starts to become more vocal and with their wallets, and they don't just aren't like, okay, we're going to go to every Star Wars movie and buy everything Star Wars, then they really start to realize. And I think they've started taking note. The toy sales, like, when it comes to toys, if you go into Star Wars, like, also aside from Toys R Us not existing, which is super sad, like, you go into Target or Walmart, there's, like, a little aisle. It's not a giant aisle, because that's not what people are going for anymore, I guess. Because toys are going down, and toy sales overall are going down, which is not an excuse, just Lego, they're doing extremely well with Star Wars, which they could do some better things, like 501st Battle Packs, wink, 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 nudge, but they're doing extremely well when it comes to that front. In Lego, the people just don't realize, oh, look, Lego, they're doing well in toys, but I mean, there's so many communities based around Lego Star Wars. And that's the thing. There are a lot of different Star Wars niches, and Disney's trying to find their one. They're starting to realize, I think, they're a forced feminism type thing. They're not going to stop because that's the world we live in, but they're going to kind of make it not forced. I mean, like, there was a certain scene, I know this is off topic, but in, like, Toy Story 4, where, like, they're all, like, the female characters in, like, Bonnie's room, Andy's sister, are, like, going together to, like, save RC. And that didn't feel forced. And I actually really like that, and if they can kind of do stuff like that, then I'd like it. They don't want a power moment with Rose, Rey, and whoever. I mean, maybe Leia. I wouldn't mind with Leia. But, like, if we have something, like, that just doesn't feel, like, painful to get through, then I think that will work in that aspect. But anyway, personally, I think that Star Wars is very alive and well, and Disney, they're just unsure yet. They don't really know. They're kind of in, like, a weird phase, but they're definitely not killing it. I think they made mistakes, as most humans do. Granted, they're a giant corporation with billions of dollars, but still, I think that if we just do a waiting game, like, go see the movies, go buy whatever stuff if you still want to buy it. I'm not forcing you, Just, if you think it's interesting, don't just do it just because you're boycotting. Because then we're not going to get to see what we want to see. Like, Obi-Wan series by Disney Plus. Because then they'll see that viewers are watching Disney Plus, and they'll be like, oh crap, we've got our top 5 most viewed things are Mandalorian, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Clone Wars. And what does that tell them? Okay, we need more Clone Wars, make more Clone Wars, pump out that stuff. And I genuinely think we do that because, to be honest, the only thing they hear is money, which is the fault of a corporation, but we have to live with it, as all people do. It's just a fact of life. And there's no point in complaining about the money, which I understand it's a valid complaint. It's just, it's not going to get you anywhere in that argument. It's more, don't pirate Disney Plus shows. I mean, if you do, fine, if you can't afford it. But if you can afford it and you just genuinely are doing it because you don't want to give money to Disney, don't do that. Because then they just want to see that people are watching stuff, which I'm going to be buying Disney Plus and watching Mandalorian, and that's going to be epic. And it's going to be a 1-week thing. Like, every week it'll be a new episode, which I like more than Netflix's, okay, we're dropping it all at once thing, which I think is also a smart business plan, which I'm not here to commend their business stuff. It's just, they're a company. You have to accept that. And being a company means you have to take into account these things, like, how are you going to please your investors? And it's a shame, but it's just true. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this tangent. I like to be excited for the good things going on, even if the Rise of Skywalker is horrible, which I don't think it will be. I think it will be okay. I mean, my worry, which I'll cover probably in a video tomorrow, is that it's going to be a complete carbon copy of Return of the Jedi, which I am extremely worried about. Sort of, the more I think about it. But with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please remember to like, rate, comment, subscribe is for English. And I'll see you all in the next one.